All right, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, June 28th edition of the MMAOB Daily Podcast. That is not Big Marcel over there. That is Mr. Tom Taylor filling in the hot seat for Marcel today. Marcel's a little busy. Tom, really appreciate you joining me today, man. Thanks so much. How's everything you, man? Obviously, you're not working at PJ anymore, but I know you're busy as hell, man, still with at South China. I think you're still with Bleacher Report, obviously. Maxim. You're everywhere, Tom. Tell me what's going on with you, man.
I mean, you summed it up pretty well there. I've just got my eggs in a bunch of different baskets these days, doing a lot for Bleacher Report, as you said, Maxim here and there, SCMP every now and then. But yeah, it's keeping me busy. It's keeping me connected to this sport that we both love. It's been great.
Yeah, and I know that you've had some pretty big guests, I guess you could say, recently. Like you talked to John Jones, you talked to Dana White. I don't know if you want to reveal who you just talked to, but if you want to reveal it, you can. But you talked to someone else who's pretty special too.
I did, yeah. I just moments ago wrapped with one George St. Pierre, who fight fans may or may not be familiar with.
That is awesome, super cool.
Yeah, it was great, man. He's a bucket list interview for me. Yeah. I've been chasing him for a while, and it was nice to finally make it happen. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. You know what's funny, Tom? The first UFC I ever went to was UFC 129. The first one I attended as a media member, and I was still in school, and my college professor called Steve Keogh, who used to be the UFC Canada guy. I think he's worked for the Maple Leafs now, and he's like, "Can you get my student?" Yeah. So he's like, "Can you get my student in to the press conference?" He's like, "Yeah, we can do that." But he goes, "Don't ask any questions. Let the pros ask the questions." This is 10 years. This is literally 2011, Tom. So I'm like, "All right, I'm just a student. I don't know what I'm doing." I get there, and they do the press conference, and everyone's there: GSP, Aldo, Hominick, everything. Right? As soon as the press conference ended, they go, "All right, guys, now it's time for a scrum with GSP." And literally, I'm standing beside GSP. That was the first time I had a press conference. And George St. Pierre's right there. And I'm like, what's going on? And again, he said, my teacher was like, and I respect the guy. So I was like, he's like, don't ask questions. Just listen and soak it in. So I did. But, man, I remember like that Neil Davidson guy from the Canadian press was there. He's asking some pretty stupid questions. I was like, man, I'm better than these guys. And 10 years later, Tom, I think I'm killing it. So, man, it was, yeah, man. And so are you, man. But it's just crazy, like, how long both of us have been in this business for a while. Like, when did you start writing? Do you know?
I think the first article I ever had published about MMA was in like 2012 or something like that.
You're early. So
I came in right after you, and you were one of the first guys that I really connected with in the space, and you were kind of, offering me advice right out of the gate, which was really nice because I didn't know anybody and I didn't really know what I was doing, but you were always happy to lend an ear or some advice. So, I appreciate it to this day, man.
Dude, I mean, thanks, man. I feel the same way. But I was gonna say, like, I remember, like, we talked years ago on Twitter, like years ago. This is way before we were working together at BJ. Where were you working? The first place, Full Contact Fighter, was that the first one?
Yeah, I did a few smaller things for other little blogs here and there. I did one for Top MMA News, if you know them, like the Canadian site. Yep. I interviewed Tim Hague for them. That was cool. That was the first article I ever wrote about MMA. And then right after that, somehow that got me the gig with Full Contact Fighter. And then that led to the Vice gig and so on and so forth.
Is Top MMA News still around? I used to go to it all the time.
I don't know. I'm not. They may be on some kind of hiatus right now. I'm not sure. But they were updating, fairly recently. I hope they still are because they're a Canadian institution.
Yeah, I remember. Like I used to go there. I used to watch Tom. Like I used to watch like MFC and stuff way back in the day, man. So I would go to this website all the time. Right. I'm checking it out right now. It looks like they haven't updated since last summer, which is really too bad. Do you know, was that Don running the website? Was it Big Win or?
It was Keith Grinke, I think was his name.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Anyways, that's his last name. Yeah, we're getting into this. We're going on a tangent here, but I mean, it just shows like me and Tom have been around for a long time, and Tom's a guy that means a lot to me in my personal career. So I appreciate you, Tom. Everything you did for me, man. Thanks, man. So. Yeah, that's really nice, man. So I'm glad to hear that, Tom. And I wanted to get you on today, talk about UFC, talk about Bellator, talk about PFL. Anything you want, man. Anything you got, grinding on your gears, I guess you could say. But let's start with UFC, the card in the weekend, Tom. UFC Vegas 30, Gane and his opponent here, Volkov. And Gane pretty much won a clear decision. The strike stats show the fight was technically close, Tom, according to the stats, but it sure didn't seem that way watching it. I thought that he probably won 4 rounds, I would say, maybe 5, like the judges thought, but I thought he looked great. And to me, at this point, like it does look like Gane is ready to fight for that belt, Tom. Like I'm not sure what else test he has to pass. Does he have to beat a high-level wrestler like Blades first? Maybe that's the test, but other than that, like he's proven he can hang and beat the best strikers in the division. He can outpoint them, Tom. He's very good. So I know you're a big fan of this guy too, man. Give me your thoughts on the Frenchman, Mr. Ciryl Gane.
Well, he's got the Canada connection too. He was the TKO heavyweight champ before he made it to the UFC. So he's an honorary Canadian as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, he looked good. I'm with you. I thought Volkov did pretty well too. It's the kind of fight where Volkov, I don't think he's going to lose all that much ground in defeat. I mean, he's still right there in my opinion. But Gane looked amazing. It's hard to know what's next for him though, right? Because there's this queue forming for the heavyweight title. Mm-hmm. And as good as Gane has looked recently, the last two fights, I mean, the Volkov fight was fun. It was certainly better than the Rosenstrike fight, but these aren't like the kind of highlight reel wins that generally catapult somebody into a title shot. So I feel like, if he had knocked Volkov out or something like that, there would be a little bit more excitement and anticipation with respect to him fighting Francis. But, for the moment, I think he's just going to have to wait in the wings and just, hope that he's the guy that gets the call when the dust is settled.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Tom. I don't think he's going to get the next title shot. I don't think sitting and waiting is necessarily a good idea either. I don't really like when fighters sit and wait, Tom. I think it never really pans out for them. Like, the opponent always ends up getting hurt, the fight gets canceled, postponed, etc. Like, it never feels like it's a good idea. So he's saying he's ready to wait for the title shot, Tom. I just think it's a bad idea. But at the same time, though, he's beaten a lot of contenders. So the only other guys that – go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, what else is there for him beyond the title shot, right? Because Blades is fighting Rosenstrike.
Stipe?
Yeah, I was actually thinking that, that would be a good consolation prize for him. But the question is always with Stipe is like, is he going to take that fight? And I don't
know if he would. I don't think so either, Tom. I think he's really adamant he gets that trilogy with Francis. Yeah. But if he doesn't, I think he would take the John Jones fight because it's a big fight. Mm-hmm. I know Gane says he wants to fight John Jones too. I think he's a little bit farther away from that, Tom. I'm with you, Tom. I agree completely with you. I think he is 6-0 now in the UFC. He's 9-0 overall in MMA. I mean, he's proven he's one of the top guys, but it's not about that in MMA. It's not always in the UFC, I should say. It's not all about who's the best fighter, Tom. What's it about, Tom? Timing. It's all about timing. It always has been. That's why you see guys losses get title shots sometimes when there's no contenders. And then when there's contenders, the guy may win 10 fights in a row like Leon Edwards. He doesn't get a fight. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I think he could fight for the belt, Tom. I think he could do well against Gane. I think it would be a competitive fight. I don't think it's a blowout. Mm-hmm. The odds came out. We have it at BJ right now, Tom. Minus 190 for Francis.
Yeah, I saw
plus,
that.
Plus 165 for Gane. Any thoughts on those odds? I'm not saying it's wrong. Like, obviously, he should be favored, Francis, but doesn't it seem a little wide? Or
I don't know. I think that's pretty fair. I mean, I certainly favor Francis in that fight. At this point, you just can't possibly pick against Francis. I mean, it's a fool's errand. I know he still has these gaping holes in his game technically, but it just doesn't seem to matter, man. He has the touch of death, and it's working. So
he does have the touch of death. And I don't know. Apparently, Joe Schilling does. I don't know if you saw that video that was going viral.
God, I just watched that 5 minutes ago, man. That was a bad.
That's a death touch right there, man. He barely touched that guy with that right hook, man. Right hook uppercut thing. That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, we don't have enough information about that. But if you guys haven't seen it, we have it at BJ Penn. Joe Schilling got into I wouldn't even say it's a bar fight. It's more like he just knocked this dude out. Like, it was.
Yeah. It's all gonna come down to the context, man. Because he said it was self-defense. I mean, based on the video available, it certainly wasn't. And then he said something about fuck racist or whatever part of my language. Or something.
No, it's okay. You can swear in here. It's fine. You can swear.
Maybe there was a racially charged moment before that, in which case his actions are probably a little more excusable than we assume based on the video, but based on the footage available, it really just looks like he just decided to knock this guy out. And
it did look like the guy said something, or you could see his left hand move, like he flinched. Maybe he was trying to fake Joe out or something and throw a feint. Like
maybe he's like, "You're Joe Schilling. I love you, man." He was.
It's just crazy. Yeah. I know it could have been. I like Joe as a fighter, but guys, this is not the first time he's had this. Like, when I was looking for an article, Tom, to link to, Andrew on our website wrote an article last year about him beating up some guy in a shower. I don't know if you remember that story. I think you were the editor for that one. So, I mean, the guy's clearly got a few screws loose. Anyways, that was just an aside there. But yeah, I think we talked about Gane enough. Now we got to talk about this guy, Canadian. He's not an honorary Canadian, Tom. He's actually Canadian. He's about as true Canadian as you can get, from Bonnyville, Alberta, Mr. Tanner Boser. He promised he was going to win this fight, Tom. He said, I'm going to win this fight. I have to win this fight or I'm going to get cut. He goes out there and knocks out OSP. Some controversy with like a fence grab. Sure didn't seem like it to me, Tom. But give me your thoughts on this fight, man.
Well, I mean, starting with the fence grab, to me, it did look like his fingers kind of made contact with the fence. But you just have to, I mean, this is going to happen accidentally sometimes, when you're in the middle of the fray and your, limbs are flying everywhere. If your hand is open and it grazes the cage, it may look like a fence grab. I don't think he was really trying to change position or anything with the fence grab. He seems like a great guy and a good sport. It doesn't strike me as the kind of thing he would do. But he looked great. He needed a win, like you said on Twitter. He needed a win and he got it. And this guy's been on my radar for years and years because of the Tim Hague connection. They had the two fights back in the day. They split them a win apiece. I've been paying attention to him for a while. It's nice to see him kind of putting it together because I thought he won the Latifi fight as well. It seems like, granted his latest good performances have been against light heavyweights, but he's not a big heavyweight himself. So yeah, he's looking great. He's fast, he's slick. And in some ways he's kind of a throwback to that, like that amazing era of the heavyweight division back when, Junior Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez were the kings of the division. They were slightly undersized by the usual standards for the division, but fast and like agile and smooth. So I love watching him, man.
Dude, I like him too. Obviously, he struggled in those last two fights. I don't know if he won the Latifi fight. I thought he won Arlovsky fight. So we're kind of like, I guess, let's say he should have won at least one of those two fights. We'll say that, okay? I think that's pretty fair to say. Yeah. But we all know that it doesn't really matter what you think you should have won, Tom. It's all about what's on the wins and losses. And had he lost his fights, I think he would have been released. And it would have been harder, I think, for him to get back to the UFC just because there's so many guys who are hungry now. But yeah, this guy's been around for a long time, Tom, like you said, in the Canadian Regionals team. And looking at his resume right now, he fought Tim Hague, got knocked out in 6 seconds back in 2015. That was the only knockout loss he's ever had. Obviously knocked Tim out in the rematch. And then Tim obviously passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. I know you were I think you were talking about that the other day, like maybe last week.
Yeah. I actually remember when Tim died, Boser had a really nice post. They were heated rivals. They really didn't like each other, I don't think. But Boser put up a really nice Instagram post at the time, something about, like we'll have the trilogy fight later, in the next life or whatever. Just kind of, it's kind of corny, but nice stuff to see from two guys who are, really rivals at the height of their game.
Yeah, it's just making me really sad looking back at Tim's career right now, Tom. I got to be honest.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, for sure. He was like kind of like I don't know if I should say the word legend. Like I think that's the wrong word, but of Canadian MMA, I don't know if there's a high bar for that. So I think Tim was kind of up there. He was probably one of the most recognizable guys, and he fought in the UFC many times.
For heavyweights.
And the sad thing is most people remember him for the Todd Duffy fight, obviously, but the guy had some wins in the UFC. He choked out Pat Barry, I remember, in his first fight. I think that was his only win in the UFC, actually. But I
think so, yeah.
That was pretty nuts.
He had some shady decision losses there. He had a fight with Joey Beltran, I believe.
Yeah, I think a lot of us thought he won that fight. Yeah, that was like a slugfest.
Yeah, and there was one other one. Who was that big blonde guy?
Chris Tucker, Brock Lesnar's buddy. Yeah. Majority decision. A lot of people thought he won that one, too. Yeah, you're right, Tom. So, he had a rough go. But, just the fight where he died after against Braidwood. That's just it's tragedy, terrible. Man. And really he should have been cleared to fight, Tom, as you know.
Absolutely not, man. Yeah.
Based on all the medical information they had. All right, so what's next for Boser? I don't know if he's ranked yet in the heavyweight division. I don't know if he's top 15, but he's got to be close to it. So you give him something to rank, or you just give him an unranked guy. Any thoughts at all? Or
heavyweight is so good right now that he could conceivably still fight outside the top 15, but I think he'll benefit from the fact that it is still a relatively shallow division. There's just not that many really recognizable good guys.
Yeah.
I was thinking Sergey Spivak, someone else who's kind of on the come up might be good.
I like that fight.
They've both kind of, shown flashes of potential, but struggled with consistency a little bit as well. So I kind of feel like they're both sort of hitting their stride at the same time.
I like that fight, Tom. That's a good one. Yeah, I wasn't too impressed by Spivak against Olynyk, and I think he does need like another test, I guess. And a guy like Boser, I would like to see. That's a good fight because Boser was taken down by Latifi. Spivak will shoot for takedowns. Tanner's going to try to keep it standing. It'd be a good fight, so I like it.
It would tell us a lot about where both guys really belong in the division, I think.
OSP though, bro, I don't know what you thought, but I'm sitting there like, what kind of performance is this? He just stood there for the first round, did nothing.
Man. He has this weird habit I've noticed. Like I just can't wrap my head around it. I don't know if it's something that happens in the lead up to the fight, if he, gets in his own head a little bit or something. But I think it happened in the Jimmy Manoa fight too, where he was just it's like he was walking in quicksand, man. He just wasn't moving well. And he's an agile guy. He's an athletic guy. He's got great power. He seems like a pretty smart fighter when he's putting it all together. Yep. But every now and then he just shows up and it's like he doesn't even know he's in a fight, man. He could be bussing tables for all he knows. It's very strange to watch, man, but he didn't look good, and that's not the kind of performance you need when you're hot and cold like he is.
Yeah, it's so tough to say because he did knock out Manfio last year, and it was really impressive, but he's lost 3 of his last 4. He's been KO'd in 2 straight fights. I don't know if he gets cut, Tom, because he did do UFC a favor here. They stepped up and fought a heavier weight class on short notice, so I would hope they give him one more fight just to be fair, but he is appealing the fence grab. I don't think that's going to work, Tom. I got to be honest. I think it's a complete waste of time. I got to be honest, man. I feel like most appeals are a waste of time unless you're Ali Abdelaziz. Then it just goes 3 feet automatically. But you know what I mean? Like,
unfortunate that they are, but they definitely are. I mean, the track record for a successful appeal speaks for itself. I mean, what's the success rate? Like 0.5% or something.
Like Fabrizio Verdum got his overturned.
Yeah, you're more likely to get struck by a meteor than get your appeal accepted.
I love it. That is so good. That's so funny.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen, man.
I'm with you.
Good for him for trying, right?
No, for sure. I mean, it's more like to spread awareness, I guess. But I just don't. I'm not convinced he grabbed the fence, man. I'm really not.
Me either.
You know,
the more you kind of debate these things and drum up controversy about a certain outcome, people kind of remember that fight as a controversial one.
I know, and I think it's all DC's fault because DC started screaming right away. It was a fence grab the fence. He's screaming it. It's like, dude, relax.
DC wasn't good on this card.
No, not at all.
There was another moment too where what was it? Who was it that was doing really well and then shot for a takedown? Why am I not remembering this?
Was it Justin James fight or?
Yeah, I hurt him on the feet and then shot for a takedown in the final round. And DC's yelling, no. I'm like, you can't. I mean, that's basically advice. You're telling this guy.
He's like a corner man. I agree. He's kind of like I've met DC. I think you've interviewed him, if I'm not mistaken, Tom. Like he's cool. He's a great guy. I mean, obviously, and the UFC loves him. Everyone loves DC, but I don't think he's a good commentator. That's the honest truth. You know, the only time I like listening to him is when he does explain the wrestling. That's when I like listening because I'm learning something. I'm like, I don't know much about wrestling, Tom. It's the one of all the martial arts, probably the one I have the least amount of knowledge about. So I'm always listening to him talking about, the different moves, pummeling, whatever, clinching. But then he always goes on these tangents on like about random stuff. Like I think it was the Hadzovic fight, the first fight of the night was an amazing fight. They were talking about some other fight. I'm like, what are these guys doing? Like, and it's not Paul Felder, it's DC that's the one making everything out of context. So not a fan of his commentary. I think he's a great fighter, great person, but I don't like him in the booth.
I think he gets too excited, man. He has the know-how, but he seems to just kind of lose track of what's happening.
Yeah, and there's no issue with getting excited, right? Like, but when you're doing that job, there is. Like, if me and you are sitting at home watching TV, like whatever, you know what I mean? Like, if you sit at home watching TV, screaming, that's fine. But when you're sitting beside the cage, Tom, and especially in the apex, where everyone can hear you. He knows everyone can hear him. The ref, the judges, everyone. That's why he speaks louder than everyone, Tom. And I've seen he's did this a few times. Like, and again, I'm not saying it's necessarily wrong that he called out the cage grab, but it wasn't, first off. And second off, again, it's like Dan Hardy. Dan Hardy got told, stay in your lane when he yelled at Herb Dean. We haven't seen DC yell at anyone, I don't think, yet as a ref, but it's getting to that point now where Dana White's going to have to talk to him or something and say, like, you can't be like a cheerleader outside the cage, man. Like, yeah,
man, you mentioned Paul Felder a minute ago. I really feel like he's just the cream of the crop when it comes to fighters turning commentator. I mean, I don't know how. I really don't know what the overall kind of impression of his commentary is, but I love him as a commentator. I think he's the best the UFC has right now.
I think he's
smart, he's articulate. Yeah,
I think he's fantastic, Tom. I think Bisping's really good too. I really like Bisping.
Bisping's great. Yeah,
Cruz can be okay at times, but I'm not a huge Cruz guy just because I feel like he needs to brush up on the rules. He's always asking questions about the rules. It's like, don't you guys know the rules? Like, come on, like you should know that.
Yeah, and circling back to DC, he had this whole thing last Saturday where he was talking about giving the guy 5 minutes for an eye poke.
I remember that.
He just doesn't know the rules. None of them do. And
I know, and that's not good. They have to really brush up the rules. I think that's because remember, some people, Tom, are watching for the first time. They're getting confused. That's not good. You don't want people that are confused. And people that they watch every card like us. We're still confused about what they're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So, I was still confused. I was like, wait,
do they get 5 minutes? I was like, what? Like, do they?
Yeah.
Anyways, so let's go to the rest of the card here, Tom. Let's get through the main card quickly. Timur Valiev defeats Remy Barcelos. Man, what a great fight. Majority decision, but amazing fight. He did get dropped twice in the second round, 2 official knockdowns, but ends up getting 2 10-9 rounds. I think that's interesting. I mean, he got dropped twice. So by the stats, that probably should have been a 10-8. But watching the fight live, I thought it was 10-9. What did you think?
I was fine with the scoring on that fight. I actually kind of had a feeling that he would win. And I think you did too. I think I saw on Twitter.
I did pick Valiev. Yeah, he was a big underdog. I really liked him in this fight.
It seemed strange to me. Yeah. He's so fast, man. I was fine with the decision. I thought it was an amazing fight. And again, the kind of fight where neither guy, in my opinion, really loses all.
That's what I'm saying. Does Barcelos' stock really go down after this fight, Tom? I'm not sure. Like, it goes down a little bit, obviously, because he lost, but the guy's clearly really good. Valiev, though, is a top 15 guy, I think, right now.
Yeah,
he deserves to fight for the belt.
Right there, man.
The reason I took him in this fight was it was a close fight, and I thought Barcelo's at age 34 is a little past his prime, Tom. I got to be honest. Like, I don't think he's in his prime. Maybe he is at the end of his prime, but one of those guys that came to the UFC too late, Tom, Like, I was at his fight in Brazil 2 years ago, Tom. Like, he should have been fighting someone in the top 15 2 years ago. He's still fighting non-top 15 guys, ends up losing. That's a tough loss, but a great fight. $50K for both guys, Tom. Valiev says, I'm going to buy my mother a house with the money. So, don't know what house he's going to buy with $50,000, Tom, but I mean, that's pretty awesome. So I'm happy for the guy.
Maybe he's got some savings. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
He's saved all his WSOF money over the years.
There you go, man. Yeah.
Andre Fili, Daniel Pineda. I mean, what are we going to do about this, Tom? What are we going to do about these gloves and the eye pokes? I mean, it's every single week now. There's no contest, it feels like. We've had so many great fights this year alone, Tom, ended at NC due to an accidental eye poke. I'm okay with the no contest instead of a DQ. It didn't look like at all it was an intentional foul, but I don't know what's the solution to this, Tom.
I'm honestly not sure. I guess new gloves, and it's not just the no contest. Like, for every no contest that happens because of this, there's 5 fights where one guy continues and is just totally compromised and ends up losing anyway, right? It's just, it can completely change the whole nature of a fight. There's got to be a solution. The glove solution is obviously the most popular suggestion. I can't really think of anything else other than gloves.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think maybe the only other thing is to really punish guys for poking guys in the eye and take a point right away. You got to take a point right away and no warnings anymore. Because even I was watching the OSP fight was a great example. He had his hands like this the whole time, Tom. And the referee didn't even tell him. Like, a lot of them, they tell him to close their fists now. He was just like this. That's going to result in an eye poke. It didn't in that fight because he got knocked out. But
maybe it's we need like grassroots changes, man. We need coaches teaching their fighters to keep their hands closed.
Yeah, I know. Like, it's just
if they really started punishing guys for this and it became a real risk to accidentally poke somebody in the eye, you might get coaches in gyms watching sparring rounds, telling guys, okay, keep the hands closed.
Yeah,
we don't want you to have this habit where your hands are open all the time, and you're pawing out like that, like so many guys do. I don't know what the solution is, man.
I don't know. It's like a lot of guys will obviously train their striking and boxing gloves. So then you put the MMA gloves on. It's a different feel, and the fingers are sticking out. So I don't think it's the fighter's fault necessarily, but there are some fighters, Tom, that like John Jones, who likes to use that rake move.
I'm still not even sure he does it on purpose, but I just think he knows he can. He doesn't have to worry about closing his hands, and if he gets an eye poke and compromises the other guy, then just makes.
I think against Glover Teixeira, when he fought Glover, I think there was some eye pokes. That was a while ago, but I just hope that there is something they can do. I mean, the glove thing, obviously, like you said, the curved gloves. They want some. People are talking about a curve where the fingers aren't going they're going like this instead. That does seem like it would help a bit, but maybe there's some negative aspect to that glove too. We don't really know.
I mean, anyways, I think it's worth a shot.
I just feel bad for Fili because, I mean, the guy didn't get his win bonus, Tom. He was on his way to getting probably a performance of the night bonus. I mean, he probably lost on $100,000 or something. It's possible.
That's why the show win format is such horseshit, man. Like,
I hate it, but it's part of the sport, and it doesn't seem like it's going to change, man. Even though we don't like it. It shouldn't be, man. Yeah, I'm with you. It's an old boxing thing, right? Like, it doesn't need to be an MMA, but that's the way they control the fighters' money, right?
And how do you plan your life if that's how you make your money, right? Like, I'm either getting $50,000 or $100,000. You can't make any real financial.
That's why Justin James bet his whole paycheck on himself. We'll talk about him in a second here. Tim Means and Nicholas Dalby, they had a pretty good fight, 29-28 for Tim Means across the board, and Hernando Mocanho defeats Jai Herbert. I thought he should have got a bonus. I thought he looked amazing. Any thoughts on those last two main card fights?
The Tim Means fight was a lot of fun. You kind of expect fun from Nicholas Dalby at this point. And Tim Means, of course, there's no real surprise. That was a good fight. Moicano also amazing. I thought, you could definitely argue he deserved a bonus. It's tough when there's several good finishes on one card. Somebody's always going to get the short end of the stick or whatever. But he looked amazing, man, and he looks like a new man at lightweight. So big things for him upcoming. Yeah,
if he can get the fight to the ground, man, he's one of the strongest grapplers in that division.
Did you see he wanted to fight Gillespie? He wants to fight Gregor.
I see that, and I like that fight a lot. I don't know if Gregor takes it, though, because Gregor, I think, is ranked in the top 10 now. Mocanho's not ranked, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know if he takes it, Tom, but stylistically, Tom, I mean, what a fight that would be. Eh? Like, I remember this guy, he's had some really fun grappling matches throughout his career. I think his first fight against Tomlin and Mackie, I believe, that was his first debut, and that was a great fight on the ground, too. So this guy's had some good fights on the ground. I'm a big fan of Moicano. He's very good. Tim Means obviously looked good, too. Two veterans. Now, the guy who did get a bonus, we'll talk about this next fight quickly, Kennedy Ncheku, who defeats Dylan Marquez via third-round TKO. So I was confident he was going to win this fight, Tom. Even though Dylan Marquez had that backpack position for basically like 10 minutes, I just was confident he was going to come back and pull it off. But I don't think he should have got a bonus. Like, he lost 10 minutes and then basically knocks the guy out. They didn't knock him out. He stopped him because the guy was too tired to defend punches. Like, is that really a $50,000 winning performance? Like, what do you think, man?
It just sort of, I mean, it really comes down to how you feel about comebacks, right? If you're losing the first 2 rounds of a fight and then you pull off this dramatic, turning of the tables, some people think, wow, it's totally bonus worthy. You persevered and all this. But then on the other side of the coin is that you got your ass whooped for the vast majority of the fight. Does that really warrant a bonus?
I don't think so. I think it depends on the card. It depends on the card. I'll say that because some cards there's like 2 finishes, so they have to, like, by default you get a bonus, right? But in this card, Tom, where there's like 6 or 7 finishes, I don't know if they got them right. And I saw a lot of people complaining too. So I thought McCanio should have got one personally, or even this guy, Shavkat Rakhmonov defeats Michel Perez. I mean, he looked incredible, Tom. Any thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, I mean, I love this guy. I've been excited about him since the Alex Oliveira fight last year. I'm a bit biased. I love Kazakhstan. I went there when I was younger, and it's actually a really cool country. And ever since then, I've kind of like had this soft spot for these Kazakh fighters. But I mean, this guy's a machine. He can do everything. I don't know if you saw. I mean, he's 14-0 now with 7 subs and 7 knockouts for TKOs. Like he's literally statistically well-rounded. Like he's proving it with the stats. I mean, he's just seems to have just such a bright future. And I think at this point, I would have no objections to him getting a top 15 fight already. I know it's insane because he's only had 2 fights in the UFC, but they're both against really good guys. Tough welcomes for sure.
Yep.
And I have no objections to him, getting the fast track and starting to get some big fights. And I saw again on Twitter, you suggested the Tim Means fight.
Yeah.
That seems like a logical next step for me because Tim Means is, A, quite good. He's a tough, experienced guy.
Yep.
And B, he's got, people like him. He's a popular guy among the hardcores. So it's a kind of good way to potentially put Shavkat over.
Yeah, and Tim's like big too. He's a big welterweight, like tall, I should say. I mean, he used to fight lightweight, but this guy Rakhmonov is very tall. And Tom, honestly, I didn't like the matchmaking with Perez. Like, I'm like, why did they make this fight? Like, the guy was literally a foot taller, basically, than the other guy. Like, why did they even make that fight? So I know the weight was the same, guys. I get it. It's not about height, it's about weight. But come on, I mean, who thought that Perez was going to win? All right, well, this guy, Jeremiah Wells, comes in here on short notice, Tom, and just absolutely brutalizes Warley Alves. I mean, this was an amazing debut. And I think he should have got a bonus too, honestly. Like, how did he not get a bonus? He
should have gotten a bonus for several reasons. First of all, because he just came out of nowhere. Like, to most people, the question was, who the hell is this guy, right? And he's a young fighter. If anyone needs a $50,000 bonus,
I got to correct you there on this one, Tom. You're going to be surprised when I tell you this. He's 34 years old. He's older than me.
Young wasn't the right word then. What I should have said is inexperienced, new to the big stage, right?
He hasn't fought in 2 years either. So the guy needed a paycheck. Yeah, he needed a paycheck.
Right?
I'm with you, Tom. I think he could have really used that $50K. I'm not saying that the other guys that got it could, like, I know Kennedy, I think his grandmother just passed away or something. Like, they were talking about that. So the guy obviously could use some money too. And
they all could, man. That's
all these guys could. I mean,
thing.
They all could, Tom. But I just think they got the bonuses wrong. But I like this guy, man. He looked amazing. I love the reaction after the knock. He's like, like, I love that. It reminded me of like Thiago Silva. Remember that guy back in the day?
That guy was terrifying, man.
I know, right?
Didn't turn out to be that good, but man, he's scary.
I know. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not going to say anything about that guy. I think he went off the deep end.
He went to jail or something.
Yeah, I think like he pull a gun on some SWAT team that came to his house once and his wife.
Yeah,
remember that?
Something.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of these fighters, Tom, they have some things going on up here. I mean, they get punched in the head for a living. People forget that sometimes. Like, these guys their brains are scrambled, some of them. So it's sad. But anyways, I love Wells' performance, man. I mean, I don't know who he fights next, but it's going to be exciting either way. And Warley Alves, I mean, I hope he doesn't get cut, Tom, because it was a short notice fight. But would it shock me if he got released? He's lost 2 straight fights, or excuse me, he's lost 2 of his last 3, I should say. Probably not.
One of these guys that for a minute there, he was kind of on the Eric Silva trajectory. Like, people thought he was going to do really big things.
I thought he was a future champ after he won top Brazil. I thought, and he beats Covington. I'm like, holy crap, this guy's amazing. Like, then he loses to Barberino, then he loses to Usman, and then the last few years, Tom loses to Wells, Randy Brown, and James Krause. Like, he has had some nice wins. Like, Bernard Lazez wins a performance bonus. Sergio Rice at that card in Brazil that I was at, Tom, won a bonus for that fight. So it's just like he either has an amazing performance or he gets just destroyed in his fights. It's really weird.
Yeah, good hammer, bad nail, as they say.
Exactly. That's man. That's something I always look at fighters now. Like, can you can punch? Can you get punched back? Like, that's can you fight back if you fight? Let's take this comment from Jose. Hey, Jose. He says thoughts on Ciryl Gane. Win streak's more important than Lewis. Let's see if Dan's just groomed the John Jones thing. We talked about a little bit at the beginning, Jose. You're welcome to go back and listen to the beginning of the podcast. I think me and Tom are both big fans of this guy. We both like Gane a lot, but I think we're both in agreement that he probably won't get the title shot next. He probably needs to get one more fight just based on timing. It's not really that we don't think Jose that he could fight for the belt, because I think we both feel that way, but there's two other guys right now in Derek Lewis and John Jones that are ahead of him. Like you said,
yeah, and Stipe is right there.
And Stipe too in the queue, right? You talk about the title queue. I always talk about that too. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the rest of the fights here.
I will say though, this
ahead.
is a good problem to have in the heavyweight division, because there have been times quite recently where there was nobody that really deserved
I agree.
the title shot.
I remember
it's a good problem to have
in any division. Really, it's always a good thing to have contenders, right? Like you said, like there's these times in these divisions where like it's down. Like sometimes I remember even at middleweight a couple of years ago, like when Anderson was just cleaning the division out, and everyone's like, is he just going to fight at 205? Now he's beating him. And then all of a sudden Chris Weidman emerges. And then you see Luke Rockhold emerge, and all these other guys, right? So there's always someone that comes up, Tom. Let's talk about his last couple fights here. Marcin Prashno, body kick knockout. I mean, unbelievable knockout. He definitely deserved a bonus. That was a beautiful knockout. Julia Villa, she's complaining. She thought she should have got one, Tom, for her win over Julia Starenko, which it technically was a comeback because the judges had a tie going into the last minute of the fight, last round of the fight. She wins in the last minute. I don't know how one judge, I think it was Tony Weeks, saw 2018 for Starenko. That is horrible. That is horrible. Charles Rosa, go ahead.
I wasn't all that impressed with Avila in that fight, man.
I agree with you. I don't think she really should have got one, man. But
yeah,
I still think she's a pretty good fighter, though. I do like her.
Yeah. I think she's great, and I think she's got a bright future. But people were really, gassing up her striking during the fight, and it just didn't look that good to me.
I know, and she's 33 too. I think at this point she got kicked out of her last gym. She's got to find a really good gym, and she's got to go all in her MMA career because she wants to have a family. I mean, she's talked about it. She's 33 years old. Tom, women have a different clock than men, and it's just it's the truth. That's why women in these sport, they have to kind of get in, do their thing, and get out if they can, if they want to have a family, right? Like it's.
There's no reason you can't come back after having a kid.
Yeah, or like Misha, right? Misha Tate's a perfect example. I can't think of any woman fighter right now in the UFC who has like a young child that's like 1 or 2 years old. I can't think of any. Like maybe there's someone, but it seems like it'd be difficult to do.
It's a lot to juggle.
Dude, I mean, it is. It's enough for someone who's not a fighter to have a kid. You know what I mean? But if you're like training constantly and you're running for your goal of being a champion, I mean, it's hard. So we'll see what happens with her. But I just hope they give her a top 50 opponent. She's ready for it. We'll see.
Yeah, it's crazy she hasn't got one yet, honestly.
I know. Charles Rosa, Justin James, man. Let's talk about this fight and talk about the bet. So Justin James bet $25,000 on himself, and Tom, I've made some pretty big bets in my time too. I don't bet like huge like that anymore, but I've made some big bets too, and I've lost a few split decisions on some big bets, and it is such a sick, nasty feeling. Of course, I didn't bet myself, bet on other fighters. I couldn't even imagine how sick it must have felt when he heard the split decision. I mean, I don't think he won the fight, Tom. I think Rosa did win the fight 29-28, but Justin James is taking the high road now. He's like, you know what? It's just money. I got my family, got my son. I'm happy. But, I mean, Tom, you lose $25K American.
The high road is all he can possibly take for the sake of his dignity, man. I mean, I didn't think he won the fight by any stretch. I thought, it was completely fair that he lost the decision. And as much as I was criticizing DC's commentary earlier, his reaction was just. I mean, he should have, kept his voice down, but I don't know why James shot for that takedown in the final round. What are you doing?
Unbelievable. He had Rosa rocked. I got off my chair and was freaking out with my fiance. Yeah. We were like, holy crap, he's going to do it. Like
he's going to cash this bet.
Yeah. I thought for a minute there, I literally thought he was going to do it. I was like, he did it. And then he shoots for a takedown. What?
He could have. He was right there, man. 2 or 3 more clean punches and that payout would have been his, man.
And like knowing that Charles is a black belt, why would you try for an arm triangle? Like that's not.
It's not like he hadn't been doing particularly well on the ground until that point either. Like, have you learned nothing from the first 2 rounds?
That was really bad fight IQ. It wasn't. Justin seems like a decent guy. I don't want to say anything bad, dude. Like I said, I've lost some big bets, Tom. You just want to go to bed. You want to put your head. You want to put your pillow on and your head on your pillow and go to bed and not wake up. That's basically how it feels when you lose a huge bet. That is a huge bet. $25K is a huge bet. But I do think it speaks to the bigger problem of fighter pay because he was almost, I wouldn't say forced to do this. It was his choice, but he's like, you know what? I got to take a risk because I really need the money. And I might as well try to get 50 grand. I'm not saying it was a good choice, Tom. It wasn't. I think he should have maybe did like a $5,000 bet instead.
Yeah.
Why do 25,000? That's just so excessive. Like, why not do 5K? Why not even 10K? Why all of your purse?
I guess, I mean, it probably has a lot to do with headlines. Maybe he's a little more clever than we gave him credit for. Had he won, he wouldn't have just gotten the huge payout. He would have been the guy who bet everything on himself and won.
Everyone will remember that, like, for the rest of the time, right?
And that's really
loser though, Tom. He lost.
Yeah, but I would say the only silver lining, and it is a minuscule, very faint silver lining, but people know who he was a little bit more than they did beforehand.
I agree with that. Yeah, he definitely gained some fans.
He's the guy who missed, but he's still a guy people are talking about now, which is
no. You're right. We're talking about right here. We've probably talked about him more than Gone. I mean, it's just like this guy. Yeah, exactly. You know, he definitely was like a storyline heading the fight. And here's the truth: he hasn't shown the bet slip, and people are asking like, can we actually see proof? I believe he actually made the bet. I don't think he'd lie about this. I don't think there's really no benefit to lying about it because there's no benefit. Like there's no benefit to it. So I do believe he cost that bet. And people are like, oh, 25,000 is like a massive bet, guys. People bet way more on like the Super Bowl and everything else. Like he's betting on himself, Tom. I wish I could bet on myself doing something like a bowling match or something. Like I would. Yeah,
man. Sometimes things are outside of your control too. You know.
That's what I'm saying. Like I bet on fights every weekend, Tom. I'm on the cage. He actually was the guy in the cage. He had that fight, won, and he blew it. And
he blew it. That's really the only way to say it, man. He absolutely blew it in that final round.
And I just can't believe it was a split too. I mean that was like I thought it was really unanimous for Raush.
Yeah, I thought so too.
It looked like he thought he was about to win. I don't know if you saw the jump he did at the end. Like he thought that Joe Martinez was about to say his name.
A bit delusional, man. And you got to wonder too. I mean, when you have a bet. You know, when those stakes are riding on the fight, it's hard enough to. I mean, it's hard enough to stay focused under ordinary circumstances. I'm sure. You know,
I just can't imagine his body might have been like just overloading, like a mental overload too. You know, it sure seemed like that in the first 2 rounds. Third round, maybe he was just like, "Fuck it, I'm just going to go for broke here." I love that. I think more fighters need to do that. Volkov should have did that too. He's down 4 rounds, and I'm like, dude, go for a broke. Like, even if you get knocked out, you're still going to lose. Like. I'm not saying anyone wants to get knocked out. Getting knocked out is not a fun feeling, no doubt about it. But I'm just saying, Tom, like, if you're clearly down in the fight, why not go for broke? He did, but made a mistake, made a tactical error that he said he doesn't regret it, Tom. I think he'll regret that for the rest of his life, that takedown.
Exactly, man. It's like Chris Weidman's spinning kick, man. You know, it's one of those moments that we'll never forget.
Yep. And then the last fight in the card, Tom, you got Hawaiian here, Yancy Medeiros. Almost came back at the end, man. What a fight with Damir Hadzovic. I love this fight. My fiance thought it was fight of the night. She's like, man, that fight was amazing. She loved this fight. I loved it too, Tom. I mean, Yancy's he's such a warrior. I mean, it's just unbelievable the punishment this guy can take. Like, I thought he was going to get KO'd like 10 times during this fight and just kept walking forward and somehow almost choked out Hadzovic in the third round. Some people thought it was 10-8. I wouldn't say so, Tom. I think 10-9 is a fair score. I think the scorecard was good. Hadzovic looked great in this fight. What do you think of this fight? I loved it.
You summed it up well, man. Fight of the night worthy for sure. I agree with your fiance on that one. And I mean, what can you say about Yancy? I mean, you know what you're going to get with this guy. Yep. He just doesn't go down. And he's one of these guys that, like, you know, he's never going to be a champion. I mean, I don't want to say that. Who knows? Maybe, but
no.
But he's just one of these. I just can't bring myself to say that, man. These people are putting it all on the line. You know,
I know.
I don't want to stomp all over their dreams, but he won't be. You know, but he does have just kind of like unlimited fun matchup options. Like, just think of all the guys between lightweight and welterweight that this guy can fight. That would just be pure fireworks. You know, the list is never ending.
There's so many fighters, and he's at what, lightweight right now? Yeah. So I mean, he could fight at 170. Yeah, I was gonna say I think that the weight cut's a little tough. He did look durable in this fight.
Give him Mike Perry at welterweight or something.
Sure,
you know?
I mean, someone like that, like
Robbie
even
Waller,
like someone like even like
Tim Means.
I was gonna say Tim Means or Dalby, one of those guys that maybe Dalby because he lost, but Tim Means versus. Here's the thing though, Yancy's lost 4 straight fights. So that's tough.
I think he's probably heading out after this.
He might get cut. I hope they don't though, but I think they will. Just because there's so many fighters on the roster now, you know, Tom. But I hope they keep him around because I love the guy. I think he's so much fun to watch. And Justin James, 1-4 now, Tom. Lost 4 straight fights. Do you think he gets cut?
Yeah, I think he's gone, man. I think so. Unfortunately, I think
I feel so bad for this dude. It's like he had such an amazing debut last year against Camacho, and you thought, man, this guy could do some damage, and just
Tom fell apart, man.
Yeah, he couldn't put it together. Yeah, but like I said, I feel bad for that guy. You know, Tom, like I have a lot of respect for Justin. You know, he actually fought in this card. It was called like Canada versus like Border Wars or something, 2009, and I think it was an amateur fight. He fought with like all these Canadian guys, like they were all in the Score Fighting Series. That ended up fighting in the UFC too. Yeah, so he's been in that pro for a long time, and I respect the guy. But I think that's it for the UFC. All right, they get these comments. Cole had a comment here. Ciryl Gane versus Lewis. It's official for the interim heavyweight though. Wait. Ciryl Gane and Lewis? Wait, what? What? Holy crap, I got to see this. What's going on here? That's
not all that surprising to me, man. I guess Francis is sticking to his guns.
Wow.
And that's a horseshit fight compared to any fight involving Francis. I mean, UFC.
I'm going to read the comments here. Hold on, I'm going to read it. Derek Lewis will face Ciryl Gane in the interim title fight on UFC 265. Let me read the other comments. The only came after Francis Ngannou was unable to defend his title in June or August. White said the company believes Gane and Lewis deserve the title shot now. Nganou's agent, Markel Martin, says this comes as a complete shock to make an interim title so soon. You look at the history of this division, it comes as a surprise. We hope to get clarity and figure out something with the UFC soon. Just to be clear, the creation of the interim belt will not impact Ngannou's status as a undisputed champion. This is fucking retarded. He just won the belt in March.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Don't get me started on these interim titles, man. These things are reserved for one situation, and it's when a fighter is literally unable to compete. Francis is right there, willing to fight John Jones. You know, he's ready. He can do it.
This makes no sense.
This is the UFC just like trying to play. They're trying to strong arm him, saying we don't need you, but you do need him because Gane versus Lewis is not that good of a fight. It's not. That's not a good pay-per-view headliner. I mean, it's a nice fight. It's going to be fun.
It's a good fight. I think Gane probably wins. He probably wins a really boring decision, to be honest with you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of what I'm thinking in that fight, guys.
Yeah.
I'm in complete shock right now. I literally am. I thought when Cole said that, I thought it said Ngannou for a second. I'm like, oh, okay, we already knew that, Cole. Then I'm reading, I'm like, holy crap, like what's going on here? So, Tom,
I don't like that fight.
I'm not a huge interim title guy.
I hate interim titles. I think they're absolutely.
I'm good with them for certain situations. Like in Bellator, great example. I mean, they had it between Bader's out, so he's in the tournament. He hasn't fought in a while. Moldavskiy and Johnson fight for it. That makes sense. This doesn't make sense. But I mean, good for Gane. He's stepping up on short notice, turning around in 6 weeks here, man. So it's pretty crazy. Like at Jose's comment, thoughts on UFC delaying the light heavyweight title shot. Yeah, you think it's BS to keep delaying Glover's shot. You know what's crazy is that the fight was supposed to happen in September. Glover fought last, I think, November against Thiago Santos. He's been waiting a long time. He's 41, Tom. He turns 42 on October 30th. So the fight's on October 28th now in Abu Dhabi. I mean, I like the fight, but I don't understand why does this fight have to be in October? Like, why is this not in August?
I don't know. I guess they want it close to Europe or something, maybe for Jan's fans, and it's not quite open there yet. That's really the only thing I can come up with off the top of my head. But
I'm with
it's one of those situations where you want to see Glover get the shot soon because of his age, right? At this point in his career, every extra month is a risk, right? Like he could conceivably become much worse month to month at his age, as good as he's been. Yeah. But at the same time, you know, the world doesn't revolve around Glover. There's lots of moving pieces when you're making a fight like this. So, I mean, what can you really do? I'm just glad it's happening. I hope it finally happens soon. You know, it's not delayed anymore.
Man, this is just crazy. I'm just like,
I'm kind of stupefied by that
I got a message Chris right now. Got to message CT and be like, yo, dude, you see this? Holy shit. Yeah. Maybe you went talk to him. I'm going to message him. I think Cole is. Looks like Cole is. Cole, you should get that one, man. I mean, I'm obviously doing this right now, so I can't.
You can't write an article while you're doing this?
It'd be difficult, Tom. I think I've tried a few times, like just to type stuff out. I lose my focus right away. I'm like, I can't do this. I have to.
You start typing what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You do that too, eh? Yeah. And I'm like reading. I'm like, wait, did I just say that word out loud? So yeah, Cole. I think if it's still in the chat, Cole, like I approve it. I'll post it for you, Cole. So I'm gonna message Cole and tell him I want to approve it.
Yeah,
for
go
him.
nuts, man. That's crazy to me, though, man. I just think that's a great pay-per-view co-headliner. Yeah. You know, it's a great fight night main event, but that's a dog shit heavyweight title fight at this stage of the game, in my opinion. And complete respect to both guys. I love watching Gane fight, as you know. Derek Lewis too. I mean, how can you not like watching him fight? Even if 14 minutes of his fight is boring, it's going to be exciting for the last minute. But
it's just garbage though, because like Ngannou waited a year to fight for the belt. Remember, he knocked out Jairzinho, I think, in like 10 seconds, maybe 20 seconds, and waited a whole year to fight for the belt. Now Gane gets it.
But you know what? I'm going to say overall, this is a positive. As much as it sucks in the on an immediate level, the indication here to me is that Francis is holding out for the money that he deserves for the John Jones fight. We know John Jones is ready and willing to sit out too.
Dude, I'm looking at the social media sentiment. It's just overall negative, guys. Like, no one likes this. People are saying it's complete bullshit. It's a crock of shit. Like, what the fuck?
Every now and then the UFC will try something like this, and it works. Like when Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz were supposed to have their rematch at UFC 200, and they just couldn't get the deal done, and then they made this crazy card with Brock Lesnar. In that instance, I would say Conor thought they couldn't do UFC 200 without him, and they would give him what he wanted, and they were like, you know what, we can do it without you, and they did.
Yeah, I know.
In this instance,
Jones, right? I just think that at this point the UFC is just it's all about the three letters. It's not about the fighter. And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be that way. And I know that I think GSP's talked about this, some other fighters. They're like, it shouldn't be about the UFC, the three letters. It should be about the fighters. And me and you are fighters first, Tom. We are. Mm-hmm. Dana White's not fighters first. He's business first. We all know that. I think, people are saying they did the interim belt because they need a main event for that card because it was going to be Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes. That doesn't sell. So I get it.
Does this really sell that much better?
Does it sell more interim belt? I don't know. Like, does it? I don't know. But
I think Derek Lewis is a big name.
He is.
Gane isn't.
No.
You ask, 5 random fight fans who follow the sport on a casual level who Ciryl Gane is, and they're not going to know, man. A few of them might, but
even the hardcore fans are still kind of coming around to the guy. I think. I mean, he hasn't been the most. I love the guy personally. I'm just saying I've seen a lot of criticism because he's not the most exciting guy. But truthfully, like, he's effective. I think he can win this fight against Derek Lewis. I obviously have to look in the fight more, but it'd be interesting because Lewis, Tom, how many times has he been winning a fight and came back and won by that one punch KO? Right?
That's it. Right. My gut says Gane should be able to kind of win this fight however he wants and just cruise, but you just never know with Lewis. He's got the touch of death too, just like Francis.
I'm just looking at some comments I'm getting on my reply, and someone said they think it's because Francis was complaining about the fight we paid a few weeks ago. Do you think maybe played a role?
Yeah, I think that's for sure what it is. I mean, they can't really strip him of the title over that, but they're trying to show him that they don't need him. But I think in this instance, it's going to blow up in their face a little bit.
I agree too.
They do.
I agree.
They do need him.
It just isn't
like this Francis and Jones fight is such a special fight. When you think of like all the stars that have had to line for these two guys to be willing to fight each other at this particular moment of their careers, you have the unbeatable light heavyweight champion who's looked a little bit human in his last two fights. So, suddenly there's this reason to believe that he might be beaten, and he's willing to come up to heavyweight. He's beefed up. He's huge now. And then the guy waiting for him in the heavyweight division is not some random underwhelming champion who never fights. It's this crazy, alluring, exciting guy like Francis.
Why would you want to screw with Francis? Like Francis, I know Francis and Lewis is the fight to make. That was the fight to make, Tom.
I think Francis and Jones is the fight to make.
Oh, I mean, that's the fight to make. There's no doubt, bro. That is.
Yeah.
And I want to see that more than anything. And I was thinking, I'm just reading here. This is a good comment. And I know that you might not necessarily agree with this guy, Fight Oracle, aka From O'Brien, that guy. But I think it's from Twitter. I think he made a good point. He goes, the machine keeps working. It goes on. It never stops. The UFC is a machine. No single part is bigger or more important than the machine. It's well said.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't make it right, though. I mean, it's
I know.
It's nobody really benefits from this except the UFC, and I don't think they even really benefit all that much from this fight. I mean, how much? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think people will tune in for this fight, and then right away there's going to be more deafening calls to see Francis fight John Jones. And the problem with this too is now we're going to have an interim champion.
I know.
Does Francis have to fight him before he fights John Jones?
Probably.
Or are they just going to end up scrapping this interim title like they did for Tony Ferguson and Cole?
Yeah, remember that? They just got rid of it. I remember that with Kevin Lee.
These are trinkets at best, man. They're useless.
Yep. Do you think, Jose is asking, do you think UFC's forcing Nick Gaunt's hand to sign to fight Lewis? The announcement's BS, similar Eddie Khabib. Yeah, I mean, Brett's the mouthpiece for the UFC. He's also broken fights that never ended up happening. I remember he broke Nick Diaz and Jorge Masvidal 2 years ago. Remember that? That was Brett Nakamoto put that out. Who told him to put that out? Probably Dana White in the UFC. Go tweet this out, Brett. See what the fans say. I think sometimes they do that. I think they put that out and say, like, what are the fans saying for this? You can see what the reactions are like, Tom, is overwhelmingly negative. And quite frankly, I don't blame people. I agree completely. This doesn't make any sense. The guy literally won 3 months ago, guys. It was 3 months ago in March. This is bizarre as hell.
And what a win, too. I mean, I know. The star couldn't be brighter than it is right now.
But again, Tom, timing. It's all about timing.
Yeah.
I will say, though, I think this is a little bit disrespectful.
I think in this case
I think it's disrespectful to Stipe, too. I got to be honest. Like, he's not even in the conversation.
I don't think Stipe deserves an immediate rematch. Personally.
No, I didn't think so either. But, I mean, Tom, like...
I didn't think he deserved the immediate rematch with DC, man. He was a great champion and everything, but I think immediate rematches should be reserved for the most extreme circumstances,
I agree. I agree. Like Shogun and Machida, a horrible judge's decision for something like that.
Exactly.
Or like a controversial thing or something. I'm with you.
Or, if a fighter who has 10 title defenses gets knocked out in 5 seconds or something like that, and there really is like a legitimate.
Like Anderson Silva, right? Like Anderson?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just, champion who's defended 3 times and then gets knocked out, you don't deserve an immediate rematch, I don't think.
I'm you know what, you're right. I think I'm trying to still wrap my mind around this and trying to like justify what's going on here.
I'm trying to pick up all the pieces here, figure out what the hell's going on.
I'm just like, easy. My head's just shaking. I'm just like, they got the odds out. Odds are out. Gane is a big favorite over Lewis. Huge favorite.
How big?
Minus 325, Ciryl Gane, plus 275, Derek Lewis. So
that's surprising to me. I think that's too wide.
That's fucking wide as hell. That's really wide.
Yeah, bet on
and they just put that line out. Like they had 5 minutes to get that line out. Did they even think about it? You know what I mean? Like it'll shift anyways.
I think Gane should definitely be the favorite in that.
Oh, he should be at 325. That seems
that's
high.
Insane, man.
For a guy who's never like. Is this chin good, Tom? We don't know. Like we have no clue because he's never been punched hard in the face.
That's it.
Derek will probably get him once at least, I would assume. Derek's fast and explosive, and he's surprisingly athletic as hell. Like you just look at the guy and you're like, he's just a big dude, but like this guy
he's
can
very
move.
Patient too. You know, he's willing to wait. You know, and he's willing.
He can lose 3 or 4 rounds, Tom, and win late in the fight. He still has gas. It's weird, right? Like the Volkov fight. Remember at the Conor McGregor card? Remember that one? That was like, winning the whole fight. Volkov was, and then bang. I don't know why champions get offended when intro belts created. If anything, they keep on vacation while 2 deserving contenders working hard. Conor should have been stripped sooner. Conor should have, I mean, there's been many examples of guys who should have been stripped sooner. It's not like Nick Francis is being stripped anyways. They're just creating an interim belt. So I know what you're saying, Jose. It's just that I'm just confused by it. I just think
why do you need an interim belt though to build hype for these two guys? Why not just put this on the same card and have it as a title eliminator?
I agree.
Nobody's gonna buy this interim belt as anything, meaningful.
And they can do the 5-round fights that are not main events now. So they could have just
did it, man. They
could have just did that, but again, they didn't want to have Amanda Nunes as the main event, clearly, man. So anyways, let's just quickly talk about Bellator and PFL. We don't have much time left, and honestly, I think we talked about more important stuff throughout the podcast, I would say. Also, Jose has some comments about the strategy. He says Gane needs to mix in body kicks and takedowns. I agree completely. The takedowns are obviously what
takedowns are gonna be key,
But the only thing is, like, Derek's a big dude. He cuts to make 265, and Cyryl's not a huge heavyweight. Like, that was the only thing I was concerned about when he fought Volkov, Tom. I thought he was going to win, but the size did concern me a little bit because he's 245. Derek might be 285 the night of the fight. Like, that's a little bit harder to get a guy down who's 285 to the ground. But Gane, I think you're right completely, Jose. That's how he wins. If he stays standing, he could get knocked out, obviously. So mix in takedowns, go to the body, tire out Lewis, go to the body. Smart game plan. I like your strategy. All right, let's just go quickly to Bellator. Just a few fights. We'll talk about Valentin Moldavskiy defeats Tim Johnson. It was kind of a snooze fest. There's basically like fence pushing for 5 rounds. But this guy Valentin's obviously very good, Tom, and he'll probably face Ryan Bader next. Any thoughts on this guy?
Yeah, I mean, very bright future for sure. Not surprised that he's the interim champ now. I thought big Tim Johnson did pretty well in that fight. Like it was, again,
neither guy really, are very wide. I'm surprised they're so wide here.
But not a great fight really, and I'm personally not all that excited to see him fight Bader. Even like it's just, I don't know. Bader doesn't really excite me all that much at this point in his career. He's got to start. Yeah, I don't know. He's got to do something special, man. He's not fighting often enough. And
let me ask you a question, Tom. What's more exciting, PFL or Bellator right now?
Shit, man, that's tough. I don't
know.
I
think PFL, man. I think PFL is putting a better product on. I really do.
Yeah, PFL is definitely. Their broadcasts are better,
way better.
Like they just look prettier. They're doing some really interesting things with like the technological side of the sporting industry. Their smart cage and all the metrics they're tracking and everything. My criticism of them though is I just feel like other than Kayla Harrison and Clarissa Shields, I mean, really that's it. They don't really have any fighters.
Well,
it's not even just building stars. Just none of them are really all that interesting to me. They're all known quantities, we all know everything there is to know about Anthony Pettis and Fabricio Verdum and Roy McDonald at this stage, right? It's just it's kind of just like having the same dish for dinner night after.
No, you're right. You're making a good point, but again, I love the format. I think the format's great.
I love the format. My only criticism is their roster. Bellator has the better roster, but I think PFL is the better
format. Honestly, like I don't know if Bellator should have ever went away from the old Bjorn Rebney way. I used to actually kind of prefer that. Mm-hmm. I still watch Bellator, guys, but I got to be honest. Sometimes it doesn't excite me as much as I want it to. Like
they're definitely turning a corner, I would say, with the amount of homegrown talent they have now.
I will agree with that. Yes, like
to get to this point,
AJ McKee, Aaron Pico, etc. These guys are getting better. Yeah, I'm with you, but I still wonder about Bellator's future, Tom. I still do. I still wonder about how much money they spend on some of their top fighters, and like the ratings are horrible, Tom. You've seen the ratings yourself; like they're not good. So I'm not shitting on Bellator because I still watch it, guys. But I'm just saying, like, I think PFL is personally a little more exciting right now. Let's just quickly talk about PFL, Tom. PFL 6. We'll get these comments quickly from Jose and from Born Again. Jose says, I bet they don't want Lewis to fight normal fight, meaning this is not interim title fights. So get fighters increase in pay. That is true. Good point. More money. as long as the fighters make more money, I'm happy. UFC needs a big fight for 265. Francis refused to fight Lewis, who already beat him. That's true too, but he's not refusing. It's just that he's not ready to go. I don't think in August. They needed a main event. The card's in Houston. Lewis was going to headline the card, so I get it. All right, quickly, Tom, let's go through the PFL card. Just a few fights we'll talk about. Kayla Harrison, I mean, Tom, can they find anyone to even be competitive with her at this point? She just destroyed Cindy Dandois. I can't see anyone.
And that, I mean, was anyone surprised by that outcome? I mean, Kayla knew it herself. She said she didn't feel super good about that fight heading into it because she knows she was going to whoop her ass. I think Larissa's the only girl on the roster who can challenge Kayla at this point. Kayla's already beat her, twice? You know, it's, I mean, she's just going to keep recycling the same opponents. Big fish, small pond. They need to find, you know, some good lightweight women for her to fight. But, yeah, I mean, easier said than done, right? I
agree with that. Anthony Pettis lost again. I got to be honest, I did see this one coming. I didn't see it coming against Pollard, but once he lost to Pollard, I was like, I think this Manfio guy could beat him and wins a splitter or something. So Pettis, man, didn't make the playoffs, looked terrible in PFL. What do you think's next for this guy?
I actually kind of thought Clay Collard might beat him because he's bigger and he's slick, man. He's really good. I just kind of thought Pettis has always struggled against guys who can really apply pressure effectively, and Collard can do that. So I wasn't, I don't think I publicly picked Collard in that fight, but it didn't shock me. And then this fight last weekend, I mean, at this point, you can't count on Pettis to win anymore. Unfortunately, he's an amazing fighter and has an incredible legacy, but at this stage, he's as hot and cold as they get, right?
I agree. I don't know if you see the chat, but there's a bunch of spam in there right now, so I'm gonna have to end the podcast early. Unfortunately, guys, it's just someone's spamming it. I don't know who this guy is. He's just being an idiot. So, anyways, I appreciate anyone who actually asked a good question, but someone, I don't know if you can see, Tom, but someone's really spamming it up. But I will get this last comment from Jose. I think I blocked the guy there. See this guy? This is stupid. This is so – guys, what are you doing? Seriously, we do a good free podcast for you guys, and you're all here trolling? Go away. PFL cards deliver almost all the time, do the importance of the finishes. I agree with that too. That's true because you need to – like the Lance Palmer fight, for instance, Tom, like he needed to finish, and you saw him kind of going for it, but he just couldn't get it done. It was kind of weird. Anyways, we're going to end the podcast, guys. I really appreciate everyone who tuned in. Tom, thanks so much, man, for joining me. It was so much fun, Tom. I really appreciate it. Love to get you back on, man. Always appreciate you, Tom. You know, you're a good friend of mine, man, and love having you on the podcast. Please, Tom, tell everyone they can find you, man. You got some interviews coming out. Go ahead, plug your stuff, bro.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter is this handle right here at the bottom of the screen, wherever it is, Tante MMA. It's Tom Taylor Writes on Facebook. And you can find my work on Bleacher Report, Maxim, South China Morning Post, all kinds of other places here and there. But yeah, mainly Bleacher Report these days, and anything I write, you'll find on my Twitter account. Awesome, Tom. Thanks again, man. Appreciate it. You guys can find me on Twitter at MMAOB. Got the little check mark. Hopefully Tom gets it. He deserves it. You should get it. I'm still waiting, man.
Dude, you'll probably get it. I don't see why you wouldn't. You work for friggin' Maxim. Like, that's bigger than BJ Penn, I would say. So
we'll see, man.
And you've been covering the sport forever. You deserve it. But at the same time, Tom, it's not a huge deal either way. I told you, I waited 5 years to get mine. Like, I denied 5 years ago. So if you do get denied, don't take it personally. I know a lot of people are really upset about getting denied. And I totally get it because I felt the same way when it happened to me. But seriously, guys, try again. Just try again. It's not a big deal. It's nothing that you can control. That's what I always tell people. If you can't control it, don't worry about it. You know what I mean, Tom? So anyways. Wise words. Exactly. So follow me on Twitter at MMAOB podcast, MMAOBsbreaker.com. I'm going to be here tomorrow with Mr. Cole Shelton. Cole's going to join me tomorrow, guys, 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll probably talk about Gane and Lewis. We'll talk about some other fights. There are no fights this weekend. I don't believe anything big that I can think of. So there's really no preview per se tomorrow, but we'll be here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm supposed to do a podcast on Thursday too, guys, but it is Canada Day, so I'm not really sure when I do now. And again, there's no card, so I might switch that podcast up to another day. So I'll let you guys know about that. I might do it Friday instead, just so I can get the afternoons off time. You know how it is, Tom, BJ. It's an American company. Still got to work, so I'll be there during the day. But when 4 o'clock hits, I do want to jump beer o'clock, man. Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, guys, I'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. Thanks again, Tom. Appreciate it, man. Peace out, everyone.
My pleasure, man.
Bye.